Raider Nation, what's going on, family? Welcome back to the channel where we break down everything silver and black with that real energy you can only get from the nation. Now, before we jump into today's drama, because yeah, there's some real movement happening that might impact one of the Raiders' starting offensive linemen, I want to take a quick trip down memory lane. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with Pokemon. And if you were like me, you remember that little moment in the show or game when the silhouette would pop up and they'd ask, "Who's that Pokemon?" You know what I'm talking about, right? Just the shadow. And you had to guess? Well, today I'm putting a Raider spin on it. Who's that Raider? I want you to head to the comments right now and drop your guess. I'll give you a hint. It's someone who started for us last season, but his future with the team is suddenly up in the air. Got your guess in? All right, the answer is Jaylen Parm. And unfortunately, the news surrounding him isn't the kind you want to hear if you're a Parm fan. There's real chatter this offseason that the Raiders could be ready to move on from him. Not necessarily because they want to, but because of the way things are shaping up behind the scenes, especially with a new regime coming in. New faces, new priorities, and some serious competition being brought in along the offensive line. Now, I'm going to keep it 100 with you. If it were up to me, I would not cut Jaylen Parm. That's just not on the table for me. The only way I'd be okay with him leaving is through a trade, where you actually get something back in return. The guy's too good, too versatile, and too experienced to just be let go for nothing. So let's dig into it. Why are we even having this conversation? Why is Jaylen Parm suddenly on the hot seat? It starts with his contract situation. He's entering the final year of his rookie deal. That alone puts pressure on a player to show out and earn that next big paycheck, whether it's with the Raiders or another team in 2026. But the bigger issue is, according to a recent report from The Athletic, Alex Cappa, yeah, that Alex Cappa, is the early favorite to start at right guard for Las Vegas this upcoming season. And that's big news because last year Parm was the guy at right guard. The 2 years before that, he started primarily at left guard. So he's been versatile, he's been steady, and he's held it down in multiple positions across the interior line. But now that the starting job he held last year is looking like it might be headed somewhere else. Now, if you're Jaylen Parham or part of his camp, how do you take that? You've started for 3 years straight in the NFL. You've weathered different coaching staffs, different offensive line coaches, different quarterbacks, and you've still managed to show up week in and week out. And now, with a new staff in town, you're getting benched before the season even starts? I'm telling you right now, if I were Parm, I'd be asking for a trade. Not out of disrespect or anger, but just to get the chance to prove my worth somewhere else. Especially when I'm trying to hit the market and secure that second contract. Because every snap matters when you're heading into free agency. Every rep is part of your resume. And if you're sitting on the bench, you're not building value. So let's really examine this situation. First of all, let's talk about the changes this guy's been through. When Jaylen Parm was drafted out of Memphis in the 4th round, it was under the Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler regime. And I'll say it, I like that pick. I thought Parm had the potential to be a future starter, maybe even the future center of the Raiders, or at the very least a high-quality guard. But then what happened? Chaos. That's what happened. Since being drafted, Parm has played under 3 different head coaches. McDaniels, Antonio Pierce, and now Pete Carroll. That's not even counting the changes at the GM level. And on top of that, he's worked under 4 different offensive line coaches. 4. That kind of turnover is brutal for a young offensive lineman trying to develop consistency and chemistry. He's had James Craig, Carmen Bricillo, Joe Philbin, and now Brennan Carroll. That's a different voice, a different scheme, and a different coaching philosophy every single year. So when I say Jaylen Parm has had to deal with instability, I'm not exaggerating. He's lived through it. And yet through all of that, he still managed to be a dependable presence on that line. But now comes the kicker. The Raiders went out and signed Alex Cappa, a guy who's got ties to people in this new front office, including GM John Spytek. Kappa's deal is basically a 1-year prove-it contract worth about $5 million. And somehow, he's already being penciled in as the starter over Parm. Now you tell me, that doesn't speak volumes about what the team is thinking. You bring in a veteran on a short-term deal, and you're already elevating him over the guy who started all last season? That tells me they're not sold on Parm being the future. And that's a red flag if you're a Parm supporter. Let me be clear here. Do I think Jaylen Parm is a better player than Alex Cappa? Yes, I do. I think he's more versatile. I think he's shown more consistency despite a worse supporting cast. And I think he's got a higher ceiling. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what Pete Carroll and John Spytek think. And in the NFL, relationships matter. Trust matters. And if Kappa already has that trust from key decision makers because of past work in relationships, that might be enough to give him the edge, regardless of pure talent. But that's just part of the story. Another big reason why Parham might be on the way out is the influx of young talent that the Raiders just brought in through the draft. They used not one, but 2 day 2 picks on offensive linemen, Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant. Now, when a team uses that kind of draft capital on linemen, you better believe they're not just looking for depth. They're looking for guys who can compete for starting roles. Rogers played all over the line in college. Left tackle, left guard, right tackle. You name it. That's exactly the kind of player a front office falls in love with. And Charles Grant, while more raw, has the athletic upside you look for when you're trying to build a dominant line. So when you bring in 2 young guys and sign a veteran like Kappa, you're sending a very clear message to everyone else in that locker room. Your spot is not safe. And when it comes to Dylan Parm, that message seems especially pointed. If he's not starting, and there's a real chance he won't be, then the Raiders have to at least consider trading him before the deadline. You don't want to just let a guy walk in free agency next year and get nothing in return, especially when you're trying to build a deep, balanced roster. And speaking of the deadline, let's talk money. The financials behind this situation matter just as much as the football stuff. Parham is in the final year of his rookie contract, and his cap hit is around $3.7 million. If the Raiders trade him, they save that full amount, minus a tiny dead cap hit of $228,000. That's peanuts in the NFL world. For another team, acquiring Parham means getting a proven versatile lineman on a cheap 1-year deal. That's the kind of trade that makes sense for both sides. The Raiders clear space and stockpile future picks, while another team gets immediate help along the offensive line, and don't think there wouldn't be interest. Oh, there'd be plenty. Over the last 3 seasons, Parham has logged nearly 3,000 snaps across multiple positions. He started at left guard, right guard, and even got some time at center. That kind of versatility is rare, and teams value it more than ever. Add to that the fact that he's been relatively healthy and steady despite playing behind inconsistent quarterback play and shaky offensive schemes. And you've got a guy who absolutely holds value on the trade market. Now, is he perfect? No. I'll be honest, his strength has always been the biggest knock on him. He's got to add some weight, maybe 10 to 20 pounds of bulk to hold his ground better against elite interior pass rushers. Last season, he allowed 36 pressures and 5 sacks, which isn't great. But again, look at the context. Constant turnover at quarterback, a revolving door at offensive coordinator, and very little continuity up front. That affects a lineman's performance more than people realize. Still, despite all of that, he managed to put up a PFF grade of 74.5 on over 800 snaps. That's not bad. In fact, that's starter level play. So for any team out there needing interior line help, maybe due to injury, depth concerns, or just wanting a young guy with upside, Parham makes sense as a target. Alright, so let's say the Raiders do explore a trade. What kind of compensation could they expect? Honestly, I think the sweet spot would be a 5th round pick in the 2026 draft. Maybe you sweeten the deal by swapping a 7th rounder or getting conditional. Terms based on playing time or performance. It's not going to be a blockbuster deal, but it's better than letting him walk for nothing. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy, drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In a bold move that could shape the future of their offense, the Las Vegas Raiders have signed quarterback Jaylen Milro to a 3-year contract. The deal marks a new chapter for both the player and the franchise, as the Raiders continue their search for a dynamic and reliable leader under center. Known for his explosive athleticism and dual threat capability, Milro brings a fresh spark to a team in transition. Milro, who rose to prominence at the University of Alabama, displayed steady growth during his college career, particularly in his final season where he became a key figure in the Crimson Tide's offense. His ability to extend plays with his legs, coupled with a developing passing game, made him one of the more intriguing quarterback prospects heading into the professional ranks. Though he entered the NFL without the same fanfare as some of the top draft picks, his potential has clearly caught the attention of the Raiders front office and coaching staff. The 3-year contract suggests that Las Vegas is prepared to invest time and resources into Milroe's development. While it's unclear whether he'll start immediately or sit behind a veteran to begin his pro journey, the message is clear. The Raiders view Milroe as more than just a depth piece. His mobility, arm strength, and leadership qualities are seen as assets in a league increasingly favoring quarterbacks who can create outside the pocket and adapt quickly to fast-paced defensive schemes. This signing also signals a possible shift in the Raiders' offensive philosophy. With a mobile quarterback at the helm, the playbook could open up to include more run-pass options, bootlegs, and designed quarterback runs. Milroe's presence alone will force defenses to account for multiple dimensions of the attack, something the Raiders have lacked in recent years. As training camp approaches, all eyes will be on Milroe to see how quickly he can adjust to the speed of the NFL and compete at a high level. For now, Raiders fans have reason to be excited. Jaylen Milro represents promise, potential, and perhaps the beginning of a new era in Las Vegas football. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.